Again, my name is Dr. Carrie Mate, or Carrie, and I'm an internal medicine physician, osteopathic trained. So first of all, some information to digest. Each of us has enough DNA in our bodies that could stretch up to 10 billion miles when uncoiled. That's about 35,000 terabytes of data, which is about 35 million hours of high definition video. So what information would this hold? The blueprint for life, how to create it, how your body functions, how it grows, how it reproduces, our thoughts and memories, just to begin with some of those. Also important to know that DNA is similar to a computer code or a binary code. So if you're familiar with those, where it takes a small change in the pattern or code and will have a very grand effect. So you can insert a genome or gene, into the genome. So you can put something extra in there. You can take something out so that it's missing one. You can translocate, meaning you take one part of the genome and put it into another area and, flip-flop them. Or you can take another synthetic or from another organism, a genome, and cut out part of the genome of the human and insert that other genome in there. When you're doing this, you are rewriting your genetic code. You are writing your software program. And how much change of that code would it take to then be considered not human? And is that ethical and legal, whether or not we know what's going on, okay? These are very important things to discuss because they're trying to roll out this technology within this year. This is also considered to be an engineered cell line or synthetic cell line or genetically modified cell line. Those are all different words that might be used. You have to understand the lingo because it can be confusing what someone's trying to talk about. An interesting point is that we cannot patent anything natural or from nature, but we can patent something that's been created, modified, or engineered. A good example is Monsanto. It can genetically modify the seeds, therefore it's created something a little different. You may see the corn or the tomato or whatever in the grocery store and it looks the same as a wild type, but it's not. They changed something. So on the outside it looked the same, but on the inside it's not. So therefore they own those seeds. Now if it's a wild type, one that just grows from nature, they cannot patent that. They can't own that, okay? So, translate that or transpose that onto a human cell line or a human. That could potentially mean that we could be patented or human cell lines could be patented. And if it's patented, it has to have owners. So I think you might see where I'm going with this. And then what if our DNA is modified with genes from another species? Are we still human? Is this transhumanism? And then what if our DNA, our genome is modified and thus can be patented and owned? This is not a sci-fi movie or a future event. This is right now, today. This is called recombinant DNA and recombinant RNA technology. And this is what is proposed for COVID-19 vaccine. The coronavirus COVID-19 vaccines are designed to make us into genetically modified organisms. That is the same lingo and terminology used for Monsanto seeds. Okay? So the front runners for this recombinant DNA technology are Inovio, which is backed by the Gates Foundation, GlaxoSmithKline, and Sanofi. Also Moderna is in there too now, and that's also a Gates-backed foundation. I will add that this type of DNA vaccine has never been used on humans before. Let me repeat that. Please understand, this has never, ever been used on humans before. Never. They are now proposing to take something we've never used and to inject it into everyone. Vaccine trials are being fast-tracked at a rate that I have never seen in my life, nor did I ever expect to see this. They are skipping over the animal trials, going directly to human trials. They are not using good scientific methodology at all. They have no randomized placebo-controlled trials for any vaccine, which is the gold standard for any therapy to be approved by the FDA. They're not following any sound scientific protocol to make sure this is safe for us, to make sure it would work for us, to know anything about it, and they want to inject it into everybody. The vaccine manufacturers in general are actually exempt from product liability, meaning if it causes seizures, paralysis, etc., they don't, as a group, are liable, okay? They also are exempted from randomized controlled trials. They're doing this with the COVID-19 vaccine, but they're also doing this with other vaccines recently where they can just say, well, we've had the MMR vaccine before. We don't need to do that. You might have tweaked it a little bit. It's still the same thing. What kind of, mindset is that? I can't believe that, because just a little change can make a big difference. Also, they're exempted from needing evidence to prove that these things will do what they say they will do. So, for instance, they just have to prove that the vaccine is producing antibodies. Okay, just because you have antibodies does not make you immune to something. We don't know that for a fact. We don't know if it really would work out in the population of people. A real study, a good study, would show that it actually works in the population of people. They're not doing that. They say they don't have time. So it may not work at all. Okay, so let's ask ourselves, what is the purpose then? So another important fact to know about all vaccines is that many of them are using the MRC5 aborted fetal cell lines from the 1960s. This is an immortalized cell line. Immortalized means it does not die. In other words, it is a cell that has lost the ability to go through apoptosis. And a cell that cannot go through that death process is called cancer. That is a definition of cancer. So they're trying to use a lot of words for you not to realize they're using a cancerous cell. Another term for aborted fetal cells are diploid cells. And they have other terms for them, but I'm just giving you the two main ones they'll use if you look at the list of ingredients. Some of the vaccines that are using these cancerous cell lines are MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, shingles, hepatitis A and B, poliovax, and others. Now, I just want to put this point in because people always tell me, what you're saying is fantastical. There's no way this is going on. Absolutely not. I trust our governments. I trust our companies. I trust Bill Gates. You're saying false information. I just want to tell you that many, many physicians and researchers have tried to get this information to the public for many years and have been silenced one way or the other. Many of my colleagues have tried to do that. I know I have tried my best. So we have tried to bring this to the public. It's not, when there's money behind it, it doesn't work. The media is controlled. So this is why you don't see healthcare professionals and other researchers speak up more. You see some still, but you don't see the group of us. Because we don't feel like we have freedom of speech. Just wanted to go on. An Italian report backed by the government of Italy and a group of scientists called Corvella, I'll give you a reference to that later, gave its conclusions about some of the vaccines I just mentioned. Their group of scientists state that these vaccines have the potential of increased oncogenesis, meaning increased risk of cancers, increased risk of mutagenesis or mutant genes. What that would exactly mean, I don't know either. Increased risk of transmitting live infections. So this has been well known. They also, a lot of times would have a bacteria that's a contaminant, or Mycoplasma pneumonia is a very common bacteria as a contaminant. This really has nothing to do supposedly with the vaccine itself, but they are in there. So you are getting an infection on top of the vaccine. So folks, telling you just this part, this could be considered or possibly the potential to be used as a bioweapon, right? They are injecting cancers into your body along with very toxic substances like mercury derivatives and aluminum derivatives and other things like that, in addition to the unknown effect of the combination and accumulation of these vaccines together and the synergistic effect that happens. For instance, if you have one vaccine with a known amount of side effects and another one with its known amount of side effects, you put them together in a human's body within some time of a time frame. It's not just like A plus B equals A and B. The two together can have a synergistic effect and have 100 times more detrimental side effects than just what you would imagine, right? So we don't know this. There haven't been any studies done on this. The pediatric population is definitely the most susceptible due to their immaturity of their immune systems, which would be common sense. So let's go back to the topic of why the vaccines are being pushed so heavily on us if the current research and evidence for using them is flawed. So let's follow the money, and that usually will give you some better ideas. So in 2011, the German company CureVac was given $33 million for their research and development of RNA vaccines. Then in 2013, Moderna Therapeutics was given $25 million for their research and development of RNA vaccines. Then in 2015, Inovio was given $45 million for their DNA vaccines, which they also mentioned admitting to using DNA nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is using microscopic or very tiny little robotic organisms, okay? All of these companies are backed by the Gates Foundation or have been associated with the Gates Foundation in some way. It's important to note that so far, these companies have been unable to get these products licensed for human use due to the fact that these vaccines have failed to provide sufficient immunity in human trials. Sufficient immunity is, again, only stating that you have a certain amount of antibodies. This, again, is not showing that the person is completely immune out in the public to whatever virus or bacteria they're trying to protect you from. It's only looking in vitro, in a test tube, how many antibodies. This is not good science yet to prove the efficacy of these vaccines, even if they could get this. In 2010, DARPA, which is the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, military agency, started focusing on DNA and RNA vaccines. And they had a synthetic DNA vaccine that could be delivered via non-invasive electroporation, which is using kind of a sticker with microneedles in it on your skin. You can barely feel it go in there. And in their words, in quotations, it is to enhance and subvert, end of quotations, humans at a genetic level. This is around the same year Bill Gates heavily started to fund the DNA RNA vaccines with the companies mentioned before. In 2012, DARPA acknowledges a brain-machine interface. That is, AI, artificial intelligence, and the human brain will form a neural network and therefore have the ability to communicate by thought alone or being influenced or controlled remotely. Okay, so this is the idea. You go into maybe your smart home, think about turning on the air conditioner, the fan, as your favorite program, have the stove start cooking something, who knows what, and it happens because it's Wi-Fi. That sounds cool, right? But think about that. If it's going one way, it's coming back another way. What if the smart home can give you messages too? This all ties in together, so bear with me. So another DARPA program around that time is Next Gen Non-Surgical Nanotechnology N3 program. And it involves non-invasive or minimally invasive brain-computer interfaces to read and write directly onto your brain. Do you understand what this means? I'm laughing because it's blowing my mind away still, even though I've known about this for a while. Read and write directly. They are rewriting what's happening in your brain, your memories, your thoughts. Now, people think this is exciting. It's the Matrix. It's literally the Matrix. I want to learn karate. Download it. I know karate. Your body would know how to do it. I want to learn how to be a French cuisine chef. Download it instantly. I can do that. I can learn a language probably within days or one day. I don't know. So that part sounds cool. You think you can control this? Something else is controlling you. Something else is rewriting your emotions, your experiences. You may have artificial memories of things. You don't know what is reality. You've become a computer program. You become a character in a computer program that you do not control. This is not sci-fi. This is today. This all ties in. So also to note that DARPA funded a company that produces soft, flexible hydrogels. I've mentioned hydrogels in the past. Injected beneath the skin to perform health monitoring. Important to hear this. They sync to a smartphone app to give the user immediate health insights. However, hydrogel nanotechnology grows and spreads in the body once implanted. We do not know how this affects our DNA. We know that it can send information directly and continuously to an artificial intelligence. Okay, so all of us in a smartphone, mine included, we have health apps. One way or the other, it's in your phone. Sometimes you have to look under a Google app, whatever, it's there. You can disable it, but you can't erase it. It's impossible. This is the COVID-19 apps they're putting in too. It has to do with this. They're getting you set up. You have the app, you have the software. Now all you need is this little hydrogel that's put there. And then forever, everything in your body is monitored. For a woman, your ovulation, when you menstruate, how many times you've had sex. For a man, how many times you've had sex. How much alcohol content's in your body, all the vitamins and minerals. If you've fallen down, how many steps you're taking. If you're anxious, your emotions, your sleep, they know everything about you continuously. And it's going to an AI program. What is that doing? That's something they're trying to do very fast. They're already getting you set up on your smartphone. This is not fantasy. This is real. So in conclusion, we are entering into uncharted territory that can change what it means to be human. The vaccines for COVID-19 are not safe by any scientific methodology. They're introducing cancerous and mutagenic cell lines into our bodies and have been for a long time. They're introducing toxins into our bodies. This has been going on for a long time. Introducing different animal genomes into our body. This has been going on for a long time. They do not have proof that what they said they're going to do will happen. There's absolutely no proof yet, okay? They don't have to have the proof. The recombinant RNA, recombinant DNA technology will cause permanent and unknown genetic changes in a person's body. Permanent. Once their DNA is changed, he or she will live with that change for the rest of their lives. And also the ripple effects from that genetic change. Who knows what they could be for the rest of his or her life. There's no going back. It's not like, oh, I got that vaccine, it didn't work, I won't do it again. No, it's do or die with this. I don't know, and I don't think whoever's trying to market this really knows the ultimate outcome. But it doesn't sound good. Essentially, this creates a new species and perhaps destroys an old one, us as humans that we know. It's also introducing nanotechnology and its robotic effects into the body. This is all suggesting the ability to use this vaccine and its ancillary products, the things I mentioned just now. And then some of the names are like ID 2020, etc., to hook us all up to an artificial intelligence interface. This is not a one-way street, this is a two-way street. So, I know it's a lot of information to digest, and it scares me. It has scared me for years. I've been to scientific meetings where they've talked about this. I've been to business meetings where they talk about this. This is real. It's not fantasy. I've studied this since I was in my early 20s, and it's real. And we have to speak up now for us, for our families, for our future generations, for the human race. It's no joke, guys. Please do your own research as much as you can and start talking and don't stop the social media. Stay on all of it and you start flooding the social media with this. We have a chance if we start to wake up more people. It's with greatest love and peace I tell you this. And I'm happy to talk about other topics and subjects, and I'll give you these references that I have. So tell me what you think, and please speak up, okay?
Hi, welcome back to Upward Look TV. As Bill Gates and the controversial Dr. Fauci sponsored vaccine companies race with an unprecedented speed to develop a vaccine against the coronavirus, several legal questions are emerging. Could the government require people to get it? Could people who refuse to roll up their sleeves get banned from stores or lose their jobs? The short answer is yes, according to Dov Fox, a law professor and the director of the Center for Health Law Policy and Bioethics at the University of San Diego. States can compel vaccinations in more or less intrusive ways, he said in an interview. They can limit access to schools or services or jobs if people don't get vaccinated. They could force them to pay a fine or even lock them up in jail. Fox noted, authorities in the United States have never attempted to jail people for refusing to vaccinate, but other countries like France have adopted the aggressive tactic. Are we in for a showdown? Would you obey a law forcing the populace to be vaccinated with Bill Gates vaccines? If this is your first time here, please subscribe so you don't miss new videos coming up soon.
Race to develop a coronavirus vaccine, some major questions are emerging. Good evening, I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. A lot of people are wondering if the government could force people to get it, or could people who refuse get banned from stores or lose their jobs? ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl spoke with a legal expert to get some answers.
Imagine a world where you have to get vaccinated and show proof to go shopping, board a plane, or just go to work. Legally, it could happen, says University of San Diego law professor Dov Fox.
States can compel vaccinations in more or less intrusive ways. They can limit access to schools or services or jobs if people don't get vaccinated. It could force them to pay a fine or even lock them up in jail. Those measures have been adopted in other countries like France, but not so far in the United States.
It all dates back to a Supreme Court case in 1905. The court held that Massachusetts could fine people for not getting vaccinated against smallpox. That case became the basis of vaccine requirements at schools across the country.
Courts have found that when medical necessity requires it, the public health outweighs the individual rights and liberties at stake.
Just last year, New York City passed an ordinance fining people for not getting a measles vaccination. But there's a big difference between what states have the power to do and what Congress could do.
There are these questions, separation of powers, Commerce Clause questions.
Professor Fox says a federal vaccine requirement would probably get shot down by the current Supreme Court based on a 2012 ruling on the Affordable Care Act. That means we could have a patchwork of different vaccination requirements in different states. Professor Fox says states would need to allow exemptions for people with legitimate medical risks like pregnancy, but not exemptions for other reasons.
Religious exemptions, philosophical ones, have largely been overridden in the name of public health.
However, Professor Fox says recent protests over face coverings show there's a big risk of a backlash here. And just because states have the power to require vaccinations doesn't mean it's the best public policy. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
And legal experts say that private businesses would have the authority to fire workers who don't want to get vaccinated for personal or religious reasons. Companies would just need to show that there are significant costs at stake for having unvaccinated employees.
Let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread a disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business.
Wait, can I stop you? No right not to be vaccinated? Meaning if they decide you have to be vaccinated, we have to be vaccinated?
Absolutely. And if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm. If the vaccination
Where is that in the Constitution?
If the vaccination is designed to prevent the spreading disease. If the vaccination is only to prevent a disease that you will get, for example, if there's a disease that will kill you, you have the right to refuse that, but you have no right to refuse to be vaccinated against a contagious disease. Public health, the police power of the Constitution, gives the state the power to compel that, and there are cases in the United States Supreme Court.
I don't want to see 25,000 people where you have empty seats all over the place because of distancing.
When do you think we could get back to that, Mr. President? How long is this going to take to get back to normalcy?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a vaccine by the end of the year. We're doing very well with the vaccine. And I will tell you something, I just literally left a meeting. We're mobilizing our military and other forces, but we're mobilizing our military on the basis that we do have a vaccine. You know, it's a massive job to give this vaccine. Our military is now being mobilized, so at the end of the year, we're going to be able to give it to a lot of people very, very rapidly.
And you're just doing something with syringes as well, so that you can have it plentiful.
That's right.
You have enough vaccine.
We will have the tremendous force, because assuming we get it, then you have to distribute it.
Right.
And unless you're mobilized and ready, you're not going to be able to do it for a long time. So we're starting now. We're of the assumption that by the end of the year, we're going to have a vaccine, and then we have to be able to give it, to use it on most of our population.
Yeah.
Now we'll focus on elderly. We're going to focus on nursing home and you know, senior citizen centers. Because that's really, if you look at it, that is a very vulnerable group. It's a terrible thing.
So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero, and that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
I just want everybody to know where I stand with this Bill Gates vaccine that I'm hearing about. I want to go on record and say, I will not. Terrence K. Williams will not take any vaccine that was created or funded by Bill Gates. I will not take a Bill Gates vaccine. Oh, hell to the no. I will not take a Bill Gates vaccine. This is what I want to know. Why is Bill Gates even trying to make a vaccine? He not who? I thought he made computers. Is he a scientist now? When did he start doing? When did Bill Gates become a scientist? That's what I want to know. Why is he involved in this? Why? Bill Gates. Before I take a Bill Gates vaccine, before I put a needle in my arm that's filled with a Bill Gates vaccine, listen. I would shoot up for fried chicken grease before I shoot up a Bill Gates vaccine. Seriously. I would inject pork grease in my skin before I take a Bill Gates vaccine. Okay? I don't know why this computer nerd, and listen, I don't have nothing against computer nerds, but I don't know why that computer nerd is trying to make a vaccine. I don't trust Bill Gates. I don't trust him at all. And I heard he was on that plane with Jeffrey Epstein too. So the FBI needs to look into that. You know what I'm saying? While he trying to create vaccines, he needs to be trying to create a getaway, because I think the man has done a lot of dirty stuff. So, Bill Gates, from one American to another American, okay? Get out while you can, because I don't trust you. And I don't think you've been all that good. And I think you've been doing some sneaky criminal activities. So if I was you, I would be trying to find a getaway, because let me tell you, a whole bunch of y'all finna go to jail. Oh, y'all finna be locked up. All y'all finna go to jail, Bill Gates. A bunch of y'all that's been doing these little sneaky things, y'all finna go to jail, because that devilish stuff, you can't get away with it, buddy boy. Okay? Now, Bill Gates, instead of making a vaccine, why don't you go make a new computer? How about that? You know, matter of fact, I need a new keyboard, Bill Gates. So why don't you go make me a keyboard, okay? Go, please, go make me an American-made keyboard. How about that, Bill Gates, since you in the mood to make stuff, since you in the mood to fund something? You know, if you can come up and find a vaccine, I got a question, Bill Gates. Can you find Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails? I mean, if you can come up with a vaccine, if you that smart to make computers and to come up with vaccines, can you put a team together and find Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails that she deleted, since you know how to find stuff and create stuff? Can you do that, Bill Gates? I'm just letting y'all know, if y'all take a Bill Gates vaccine, you're crazy. You are crazy. Like I said before, I will shoot fried chicken grease up my arm before I take a Bill Gates vaccine. I'm not lying. I'm not lying. I'm telling you. I would shoot up some Crisco before I shoot up a Bill Gates vaccine. I'm just saying, it's not happening, Captain. Not at all. I just want to know why he's involved in all this. Why is he trying to make money from off this coronavirus? That's what I want to know. And another thing is, I heard, do y'all know about event 201, 202, some event something? Bill Gates was talking about the coronavirus not too long ago. Like when? In 2019. 2018, 2019. He was talking about this same situation. And now it really happened? And you want me to take your vaccine? The devil is a lie. Before I take his vaccine, I will die before I take his vaccine. Because you might die anyway if you take it. You might, okay? So I'm just telling you, it's not happening at all. But anyways, y'all have a good night. God bless y'all. All right? Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Well, James, this is exactly what I was talking about in Bill Gates and the population control grid. It is the coming together of all of these pieces of the puzzle. It's the biometric identity grid with the vaccination history grid with the cashless payments all coming together into this one package that's going to be delivered to you, of course, via Gavi and which obviously has Bill Gates links, and MasterCard, and all of these other corporate entities are coming together to offer you the solution to the crisis that they war-gamed out in October of last year. Wow, imagine that. What are the odds? So, at the very least, I would hope people would go and read through this article. There are so many links to different pieces of this, and trust stamp, and what is that, and who's the corporate partners, and how did this come together, and what's it seeking to do, and how does it function. There's so much to explore, even just from this one article, that I think is very important knowledge for people to have to understand how this is going to play out. Not just, obviously, they roll it out in Africa first, because, hey, they're the guinea pigs, because this is a big eugenics experiment anyway, but it is coming around the world in one form or another, and I think people should be aware of that. So it is good to inform yourself, but also this is a good article to follow up with people who you might have tried to share Bill Gates and the population control grid or other information with. Oh, you silly conspiracy theorist. Well, here it is. It's already arrived. They're already doing it, and they're rolling it out, and here's the first test, and here's how it works. It's a good way to back people into that corner where they're going to have to say, well, of course it exists, but it's a good thing. How else would you want to keep track of people's biometric identification and vaccination history and also put them on the cashless payment grid? How else is this going to work? So at any rate, I hope that this will be one of those things that helps a few of those seeds that have been planted to flower, because this is exactly what I was pointing to in that work just a couple of months ago, and it's already arrived.
Hey guys, so I came across this article. I have no way of knowing whether it's really true or not. I have no way to find that out myself, but I'm going to share it with you and you can decide on your own what you think of it. I personally believe it because it sounds right up their alley of what they're already trying to do anyway. So, and as I read through it, it has to do with Africa. It makes a lot of sense that they would start testing this out in some more remote places so they can see how well it works first, and it really won't get widespread news coverage. Nobody's really going to find out about it that way. So anyway, here it is. It's called Africa to Become Testing Ground for Trust Stamp Vaccine Record and Payment System. Now, how much does that sound and remind you of the Mark of the Beast? A lot, obviously. So it starts off and it says, a biometric digital identity platform that evolves just as you evolve is set to be introduced in low-income remote communities in West Africa thanks to a public-private partnership between the Bill Gates-backed Gavi Vaccine Alliance, MasterCard, and the AI-powered identity authentication company Trust Stamp. The program, which was first launched in late 2018, will see Trust Stamp's digital identity platform integrated into the Gavi MasterCard Wellness Pass, a digital vaccination record and identity system that is also linked to MasterCard's click-to-pay system that powered by its AI and machine learning technology called NuData. MasterCard, in addition to professing its commitment to promoting the centralized record keeping of childhood immunization, also describes itself as a leader toward a world beyond cash. And its partnership with Gavi marks a novel approach towards linking a biometric digital identity system, vaccination records, and a payment system into a single cohesive platform. The effort since its launch nearly 2 years ago has been funded via $3.8 million in Gavi donor funds, in addition to a matched donation of the same amount by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In early June, Gavi reported that MasterCard's Wellness Pass program would be adapted in response to the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Around a month later, MasterCard announced that Trust Stamp's biometric identity platform would be integrated into Wellness Pass, as Trust Stamp's system is capable of providing biometric identity in areas of the world lacking internet access or cellular connectivity, and also does not require knowledge of an individual's legal name or identity to function. The wellness program involving Gavi, MasterCard, and Trust Stamp will soon be launched in West Africa and will be coupled with a COVID-19 vaccination program once a vaccine becomes available. And it continues on and it says a whole lot more about it. If possible, I will share the link in the description so you guys can read it yourself. And like I say, I have no way to know if it's real or fake. However, it sounds right in line with what they're already trying to do anyway and what they've been wanting to do. It reminds me a lot of the Mark of the Beast. In the last video I did, I was talking about how diseases like COVID-19 would be used to push the Mark of the Beast technology, because how they would do it is they would say they need proof that people have been vaccinated, and the only way to really have that proof to allow people to go in and out of businesses and use certain functions is if they have some sort of computer chip or something like that, to where it can be scanned really quick and they can see, yes, this person has been vaccinated. So when I read this, it's quite startling because it sounds exactly like what I've been talking about that I think they're going to do, and what we all kind of know is coming already anyway. I mean, the Bible says it, we know it's coming. There is no denying that. It's just a matter of seeing it as it gets here, and that's a lot like what this sounds like. So everybody let me know what you think. Take care, God bless.
Africa to become testing ground for Trump stamp, vaccine record, and payment system. So they're calling this a wellness pass. It is a digital vaccination record and identity system that is also linked to MasterCard's click-to-pay system that is powered by its AI and machine learning technology called NuData. So the program is partnering with Gavi. Gavi is the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. It was funded through the UN to increase immunization in poor countries. So Gavi wants to link biometrics with vaccination records and a payment system into one platform. So Gavi has been funded for many years by these people. And of course, this is in response to this pandemic. So the goal of tying your identity to your money and then tying that to vaccinations is beginning to be implemented. And they're starting in Africa, which is not surprising because they have been doing testing for vaccines and experiments for decades in Africa. So they're going to be using AI to create a 3D mask. And this is going to be based on a single photo of a person's face, palm, or fingerprint. Once this mask is created, much of the original data is discarded and encryption keys are created in place of a person's name or other more traditional identifiers. So this is the goal, to get your information so that they can store it in their system and have AI update it. Once AI updates it, it's irreversible. So Jenner also explained in a recent press release that the unique hash is capable of evolving as a new hash with updated health information and is created every time a child or individual gets a vaccine. So we can see here again who's funding this. And of course the vaccine industry has something to do with it. The ultimate goal here is so that they can go beyond cash, being the world beyond cash, so a cashless society. And of course one of the ways they can do that would be through contact tracing. For instance, contact tracing software originally introduced as part of this response has since been used by police departments across the U.S. to track protesters during the country's recent bouts of protests and civil unrest. So we're coming to a point in time where your fingerprint or your eyeball is going to become your ID. And they're using civil unrest and this pandemic, and they will use other false flags like it to implement this system and make it mandatory. So they will be able to identify you either by your hand or by your forehead. Right now it's in its testing phase in Africa. Soon it could become mandated and mandatory across many nations and many countries. I'll leave the link to this article in the description page below. Please share this with friends, with family, with anybody who's willing to listen. Stay awake, stay safe, stay in prayer. May the grace of Yahushua be with you.